Hello everyone and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the NBA DFS Core Pick video for Friday, February 21st. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. I'll be going over my core picks for both DraftKings and FanDuel. On the DraftKings side, it's going to be a 6-game main slate. On FanDuel, it will be a 9-game main slate. There are 6 teams in total and back-to-backs, so those teams will be having injury reports coming out later on in the day. But for all the other teams, we'll have my typical morning injury reports, so definitely want to look out for that. Injury updates throughout the day, as well as those injury reports for the teams on the back-to-backs. And then about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock, I'll have my updated core, and then I will be posting as many of these starting lineups as I can get to throughout the evening as well. But without further ado, we'll get started with the DraftKings side. We're going to start off at that point guard position. We got Jose Alvarado here at $5,500 for the New Orleans Pelicans. Going against Dallas Mavericks, he's been in that starting lineup for them as of late. Last 2 games for Jose Alvarado have been really, really good, but at $5,500, look for 27-28 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Currently, I'm projected for 30. Definitely does offer a ton of upside for more at the same time as well. Then we move down to shooting guard, and this was the toughest position for me on the day in total. So I have RJ Barrett here at $7,200. Did recently gain the shooting guard eligibility over on DraftKings, so you can obviously also play him at small forward as well. Goes against Miami Heat, not the greatest matchup in the world, but still could be a pretty back and forth game. $7,200, looking for 36 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Averaging just over 40.5 fantasy points per game so far in the season. Been a little bit more hit or miss as of late, but definitely do like him in this matchup. Currently, I'm projected for 38 fantasy points on DraftKings, but definitely does come with a little bit of upside for more at the same time as well. Then we move down to small forward with Asar Thompson, who is just too cheap once again. So $5,300, looking for 26-27 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. He goes against the San Antonio Spurs. Should be a pretty good pace-up spot there at the same time as well. The Spurs are on the back-to-back. So the fresh Detroit team versus San Antonio Spurs. Asar Thompson, he's been playing really well as of late. Currently, I'm projected for 30 fantasy points in this game. Does offer a little bit of upside for more. Probably a little bit of downside for less, but we haven't seen it as of late. And at this price tag, he's just way too cheap. Then we move down to power forward with Keyshawn George of the Washington Wizards. $4,700. Do expect that he will be in that starting lineup once again, playing pretty big minutes. Looking for 23-24 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Averaging just under 19.5 fantasy points per game on the season, but a lot of the season wasn't playing those big minutes, which he has been doing as of late. He goes against the Milwaukee Bucks, who are on the back-to-back. So we'll see whether Damian Lillard play in this game or not, which could actually help out the Washington Wizards in a pretty big way. But definitely do like Keyshawn George once again in the spot. Currently, I'm projected for 27 DraftKings points. Then last but not least, we're going down to the center position with Wendell Carter Jr. of the Orlando Magic. He ultimately ended up starting for Thursday's game. Do expect that it should be the same case on Friday as well, unless he rests on the back-to-back, which really hasn't been the case for him too much as of late. But $4,300, looking for 21-22 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. And he's currently averaging 23.5 so far in the season. If he goes out there, if he plays 28 minutes, it's going to look like a really good play overall. Currently, I'm projected for 27 fantasy points. Does come with a little bit upside for more. Obviously, could have a little bit downside for less if he ultimately doesn't end up starting, or, if he loses out on some minutes to Goga Batazzi or someone else like that. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that do currently have listed here, you got $23,000 remaining, just over $7,600 remaining per player. So a decent amount of money remaining, whether or not you want to pay up for some star players, pay down at that final spot, or whether you want to go with a little bit more balanced approach overall. Should make for a very interesting slate, especially for the 6-game main slate over on DraftKings. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there as well. So on the FanDuel side at the point guard position, ultimately ended up on Steph Curry. $8,600, looking for 43 out of him. Prior to the All-Star break, he was playing really well outside of his most recent game. But once again, looking for 43 out of him, averaging just under 40 so far this season. It's a pretty good spot versus Sacramento Kings. Should be a pretty favorable matchup for him just in general. I definitely think this should be a pretty back and forth game, and Steph Curry should be a big beneficiary from that. Currently, I'm projected for about 45. Could have some upside for more. Maybe a little bit downside for less, like we see in that most recent game, but as of late, he has been playing really well. Then at shooting guard, we were going to go with Max Christie of the Dallas Mavericks, $5,800, looking for 29 out of him to pay off at 5 times value. Since joining the Dallas Mavericks, he's had at least 29 fantasy points or higher, so price tag for Max Christie at this point in time, probably a little bit too cheap. Should be a pretty favorable matchup for him versus this New Orleans Pelicans team, and do currently have him projected for 30 fantasy points overall. Not too much to be said here. Guy that's playing big minutes, he's been playing really well as of late, so just going to go back to the well once again. Then at small forward, this was really the struggle position for me overall. Ultimately ended up on Desmond Bane. I think there's a pretty good chance that Ja Morant does ultimately end up sitting on the back-to-back. Not the greatest matchup in the world versus the Orlando Magic, but with no Ja Morant, should be some extra usage to go around. At $7,600, looking for at least $3,800 out of him. Averaging just over 35 so far in the season. Currently, I'm projected for about 38, 39 in this matchup. Could have a little bit upside for more, maybe a little bit downside for less if his shot's not going down. But with no Ja Morant out there on the court, should get some extra usage, probably get a couple extra assists here and there at the same time as well. Then we moved into power forward with Keyshawn George, once again, $5,100. Looking for 25, 26 out of him. Currently, I'm projected for 27 in this matchup. Pretty good spot versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Should be a little bit of a pace-up spot. And if Damian Lillard or Giannis Antetokounmpo don't ultimately end up playing in this game, should be a pretty back-and-forth game overall, which would favor a young player like Keyshawn George. Been playing big minutes as of late, been starting, so definitely do like the upside that he could potentially have in this matchup once again. And then last but not least, once again, we're going to Wendell Carter Jr., $4,700, looking for 23, 24 out of him. Essentially what he's been averaging so far in the season. Did start on Thursday night, so I expect that to be the case once again on Friday. If he goes out, if he plays 28 minutes, going to look pretty good in this spot. Currently, I'm projected for 27. Could have a little bit of upside for more, maybe a little bit downside for less, if he doesn't quite get the minutes. But definitely like him as a paydown option at that center position. But with that being said, if you go with the 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you have $28,200 remaining, just over $7,000 remaining per player. So it looks a little bit more like a balanced build type of day, but there could be some potential values opening up throughout the day, which could allow us to pay up for some other star players at the same time as well. But with that being said, these are my core picks for both FanDuel and DraftKings for Friday, February 21st. And then as always, if you have any questions related to NBA DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comment section below. Once again, in the morning, I will be listing my injury report down in the comments section. The 6 teams on back-to-backs will have their injury reports listed later on the day, and then I will also be posting all the injury updates throughout the day, as well as my updated core about 20 to 30 minutes prior to lock, or as those changes do become available. That will be listed as a pinned comment. If there's any other additional changes after that point in time, we'll leave them as a reply to that pinned comment as well. And then last but not least, I'll be listing as many of the starting lineups that I can get to throughout the evening down in that comment section as well. So definitely be sure you're checking up down there, especially as we do get closer to lock, so that you have the most up-to-date information as possible. But with that being said, if you're brand new to my channel, checking out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. Helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now, we have NBA DFS in terms of the core picks, Tuesday through Friday. Been dropping some NFL draft content as of late, so if that's something you're into, definitely be sure to check that out as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting whatsoever, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Parlay Play, and Prize Picks. If you're a brand new user on any one of those 3 sites, when you sign up, make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,000. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. If you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comment section of this video or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport. Be more than happy to help you with that journey as well. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in NBA DFS for Friday, February 21st.